Hello friends, this is your friend back with a new fanfic, Dark Legacy Awakens, Sith Trained Naruto. If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's start. Over the next week Hinata began moving up from the lower half of class toward the front of the class in ranking. Naruto himself was staying about middle of the class, and when Hinata asked why he was hiding, he said, "A ninja does not show how good he actually is." Hinata after that began to move back a little toward the middle of class and stayed about where Naruto was. Mizuki was not having a good week. On Monday the desk next to Naruto fell and broke his toe as it was under the desk. On Tuesday he slipped on some urine from Akamaru, who started to laugh for some reason and pissed in the floor, and Mizuki broke his arm trying to catch his fall. On Wednesday the flagpole fell on him, breaking his shoulder bone. On Thursday he was still in the hospital, and on Friday when he got out his girlfriend broke up with him after she saw him flirting with some blonde-haired girl she never seen before, even though he was still in the hospital when this happened. When Saturday rolled around, Tenten came over to spar with Naruto, and Hinata and Kurenai came by, but Anko was away on a mission. Sunday was just basic with learning exercise number 9. Hinata would not get to number 10 until she could do the waterfall exercise in the time limit. Then Monday popped up, and today Sasuke was back after his suspension. When Naruto and Hinata arrived, Sasuke ignored them and Naruto said, "Weird." Hinata nods and they both sat down. As the rest of the kids come in, Sakura, Ino and a few other fangirls all started trying to ask Sasuke out and other things, and Naruto watched them and Hinata asked, "What are you thinking, Naruto?" Naruto asked, if Sasuke gay and why is an Anbu hanged into a female student. Hinata blinked and asked, "What?" Naruto said, "The second brown-haired girl on the left of Sasuke in the middle. She's a he and has an Anbu mask on." Hinata activated her bloodline and gasped and asked, "Why he here?" Naruto frowned and said, "I guess the Hokage wants to keep an eye on Sasuke for now and make sure he doesn't try to kill anyone else." Hinata nods and she didn't realize it, but she scooted closer to Naruto and grabbed his hand, and Naruto blinked and glanced at her as she watched them and thought, "So some of the old you is still there. I guess until you can bury him he will always be a bad memory for you, but he still serves a purpose." Besides that, nothing of importance happened. Kiba, Shikamaru, Choji, Naruto and Hinata spent lunch together every day and stayed good friends, but the three boys never got closer than that. Naruto and Shikamaru played games, Choji ate, Hinata watched and Kiba joked. It was stress relief to relieve boredom mostly. In the morning before school Hinata did the first 2 exercises and Naruto had changed the dodge exercise to dodge and attack now. Then school, then after school they would go back and train until around 7 when they ate and relaxed until they went to sleep or meditated. Saturday, Tenten, Kurenai, and Anko all came over, but Tenten only stayed for an hour since she still had work to do. Hinata had improved greatly during this time and Naruto was happy with her improvement. Today was the day of reckoning though. Today was the 2-month date he had agreed on, and it was also Hinata's 12th birthday. Naruto smiled as he saw her working out, and he saw that the people he had asked to come had arrived, so he went toward the gate and said, "Thank you all for coming today." As he opened the gate, Hiyashi Hyuga, Hanabi Hyuga, Kurenai and Anko all arrived, and Naruto said, "Please follow me," as he led them inside. Hinata was just finishing the dodge and attack exercise and Naruto waved his hand and a block moved and the area started to change, and Naruto said, "Hinata, that's all for now. I have an announcement I would like for you to hear." Hinata walked over shocked to see who was there, and Naruto said, "In case you have not realized it, Hinata, it has been exactly 2 months since you first came here. In that 2 months you have improved greatly in not just physical strength but mental and spiritual as well. You have become the diamond I knew you could. Today is also your birthday. I figured it's kind of fitting that today would be the day you would make the most important choice of your life. I had intended to give you a present marking your accomplishments here, but someone stole them from the shop. They were being customized, so I have decided to do something else." As he held his hand above his head and as several tiles in the roof began to move, shocking everyone, and several puffs of smoke went off around the room, and when it was done there were 20 rows of racks all throughout the hall, and Naruto pulled out his lightsaber and ignited it and said, "Hinata, you have seen me use this weapon on several occasions. I have told you the history of these weapons and how important they are to me and my future clan. I have decided that even if you do not join my clan that you still earned the right to at least one of these weapons, shocking everyone. Naruto said, now Hinata, on each of these shelves are the pieces that make up the lightsabers. There are millions of possibilities here, and if you notice there is a single pillar alone at the end of the shelf that goes 40 feet into the air. I want you to go down each row and don't choose the ones you think are nice or good or whatever. I want you to feel which pieces are calling you. I don't care if it's a single, double or two of them. Search out the pieces for your lightsaber and then climb the pillar, and on top of it you will find the instruction on how to combine them properly. Follow the directions and then when you are done activate them for all of us to see. That is my birthday present and my gift, showing that in my eyes you are now an adult, free to make any choice you wish. Hinata was shocked and Hiyashi asked, what are you playing at Naruto? Naruto waited until Hinata was searching the rows and he said, she knows the truth Hiyashi. She knows about how in order to stop Sasuke feud with the Hyuga clan I paid your clan a chest of rubies and how I was the one who framed her so you could kick her out. She's known since the second day here. I asked her to give me the 2 months that we agreed on Hiyashi to let her learn to become stronger for herself so she can make her own decision. Not the ones her clan makes for her or the ones I make for her, but what will make her happy. I have given her every tool that I could while she was here. I have given her support, guidance, inspiration, compassion, understanding, and kindness. I have showed her that just because she was a woman she was not weak. I showed her that just because others say things about her does not make them true. I have done nothing to her but opened her eyes to the world and allowed the real Hinata that has hidden herself away her entire life to come out of hiding. Now today is the day she will make her choice. She will either return to the Hyuga clan as a proud Hyuga, stay here with me with the knowledge of my plans for the future and the way I am. She can take Kurenai offer to move in with her and become like a daughter to her, or she can tell us all to go screw ourselves and start her own life. You free now Kurenai, so you can hit me if you wish. It won't matter because it's all her choice now. As he looked back at the red-eyed woman who has been trying to open her mouth as well as move to punch Naruto after hearing him say it was his fault she was kicked out, and she heard it all and asked, barely holding her temper, why? Naruto saw Hinata had done finished and was standing on the pillar and said, look at her now and you will understand. Before all this went down she was a lump of coal in every sense of the word. She was hidden in the ground, alone in her own darkness, feeling lots of pressure from everywhere, but she was lacking the spark of heat in her life that would turn her into what she is now. A diamond that just needs to be refined, and she will be ready for whatever the world throws at her. Kurenai looked at Hinata who slipped the pieces together and she said, I am finished. Naruto said, good, now be careful and activate it Hinata and show everyone your light. Hinata nods and she activated the lightsaber and Naruto's eyes went wide as Hinata had a double-bladed lightsaber with green blades and he smiled and said, well done Lady Hinata, well done, now come join us so we can celebrate your birthday. As several Kujibunshin walked out with tables, food, and drinks. Naruto raised his hand and more tiles moved in the roof and all the rows of lightsaber parts went up in smoke, and Anko asked, aren't you afraid someone might find those and steal them? Naruto said, nope, I have set up decoy bricks in the ceiling and if any one of the parts is not from the right shelf when they go to activate it, the lightsaber will explode and kill everyone within 10 feet of it. Hiyashi asked, how do you have so many gems? Naruto smirked and said, let's just say you would never believe what is buried under this village or this temple. Hiyashi narrowed his eyes and said, so there's more to it underground. Naruto said, you thought I can't take credit for them. My parents originally built that part as a civilian shelter, but because of the way the villagers treated me as a child, my mother and I say the villagers can got themselves. I will defend Konoha because it's my home and the home my father gave his life for, and for the ones who see me as me. Those like Mizuki and the ones who don't just get off lucky. Hinata frowned at this but remained quiet as she ate. The rest of the lunch was mostly a few comments here and there, Hanabi saying happy birthday to her sister, and then Naruto said, well Hinata, do you have that scroll? Hinata nods and pulls out the scroll and lighter, and Naruto said, that scroll contains the contract I made with Hinata. It's basically the same one I made with the Hyuga clan with a few minor changes like no jewels and things like that. She's allowed to make her own decisions, so do what is best for you, not for me, not for Kurenai and not for your family. Hinata closed her eyes and said, Can I speak to my father and sister a few minutes alone before I decide? Naruto shrugged his shoulders and said, it's your decision Hinata, you can do whatever you want, as he turned and walked away. Hiyashi watched as Kurenai and Anko followed after Naruto and Hinata looked at them and said, did you know about this Hanabi? I mean about my being kicked out of the clan alive. Hanabi looked extremely confused and Hiyashi said, no. No one besides myself, the council and Naruto knew of this. She only knew what everyone else knew. Hinata nods and looked at her father with a heavy glare and asked, why? Why did you agree to it? Hiyashi sighed and said, I did what was best for the clan. Naruto explained how Sasuke attacks on everyone, especially you made it look like it was the rivalry between the Hyuga clan and the Uchiha clan. We did it be. Hinata slapped him across the face and screamed, I don't want to know why Hiyashi Hyuga, head of the Hyuga clan did it, that I know. I want to know why my father agreed to it. Hiyashi was shocked and Hanabi was gaping and he said, I. Hinata asked, you what? Hiyashi regained his composure and said, after your attack and we were at the hospital after Sasuke sent his threat that if I agreed with Naruto idea then you and your sister would finally be safe. I knew no matter what I did that one of you would have suffered in the branch house. That is why I made you feel weak and inferior after your mother's death so that way there was a chance that the current council would pass away while we tried to determine who should be the heir. Hinata asked, and if I returned to the Hyuga clan what would happen to Hanabi and I? Hiyashi said, even though you have gotten stronger the fact that you now use non-traditional Hyuga techniques means you would be branded with the seal. Hinata frowned and Hanabi looked at her sister and Hinata said, may I speak with my sister alone a moment? Hiyashi nods and walked away and Hinata said, Hanabi, you understand what is going on here right? Hanabi said, a little. Hinata looked at her sister and had a flashback of when she first came here and Naruto words rang in her head and she said, I want you to do something for me sister. I am going to become someone you are going to be proud of. I want you to watch me and when you become the head of the Hyuga clan I want you to use me as your guide and change the Hyuga clan so that way our family will no longer suffer because of the seal and what others think. I may be mad about the fact Naruto got me kicked out of my family but he freed me from slavery. I owe him and I will stand by his side. He is a great person. Watch me sister and become a diamond like me. As she hugged her sister and a tear fell from her eyes. Hanabi was confused but understood enough of it and said, I will sister. Hinata nods and stood back up and said, come sister, I have an announcement to make, as she walked toward where the three groups were waiting. When they all got back together Hinata said, I have decided that I am going to stay here with Naruto. Naruto looked at her and asked, are you sure? I mean you know that I will never be able to marry you and someday I will want you to become the mother of my children. Are you sure about this? I don't want you to feel you owe me or anything. I want it to be your choice. Hinata said, I know but I realize that no matter what my life as a Hyuga is over. I can't ever go back unless I want to become a servant in the branch family. I also know that Kurenai offered me a chance to be with her but I won't be a burden to anyone ever again. I learned my lesson and that was that I have to take care of myself in this world. I decided to stay with you because the fact you went out of your way to help me when no one else would. I suffered not only at the hands of Sasuke but from the Hyuga clan. You freed me and in the process freed my sister. You have shown me nothing but kindness besides the actual deed that caused me to be kicked out. You have showed me you care for me and I have decided I will help you as I help myself. Naruto smiled and saw everyone looking at Hinata and he said, I know that for you and Anko, Kurenai, that this shocking to learn and I ask that you both don't tell anyone about the truth why Hinata was removed from the Hyuga clan. If you both hadn't have become so attached to her I would not have let you been here but since this was her future I decided that you should know why today is so important. Do you have anything you wish to say Hiyashi-san? Hiyashi looked at Hinata and said, just that I am proud of you and I am sorry for what I did but I have my duties to the Hyuga clan. Hinata narrowed her eyes and said, I see. Well today has been very tiring for me and I have a busy day of training tomorrow. I am sorry but I must get some rest. Thank you all for coming today and may the force be with you. As she turned and Naruto saw the look on her face and frowned inside and he saw everyone looked uncomfortable and he said, I wish to thank you all for coming and like Hinata said we have a long day tomorrow. Hiyashi nods and said, Come Hanabi, we shall retire for the evening, as he turned and grabbed her hand as they left. As he was leaving, Anko asked, "What are you playing at Gaki?" Naruto said, "I just want to see Hinata happy. Is that so hard to believe?" Anko glared at him and Kurenai said, "You have better take care of her, and if I ever hear of you hurting her I will kill you." Naruto said, "I won't, but I hope you will still come see her. I know she's grown to look at you like a second mother." Kurenai closes her eyes and said, "I will." As she wanted to bite his head off but knew she couldn't right now, and she grabbed Anko's arm and they left. Naruto waited until they were gone and he locked the gate and went back into the temple and went to find Hinata. He found her inside the flower garden and he walked up to her and wrapped his arms around her and she flinched and Naruto said, "Go ahead and let it go, Hinata. It's just you and me and we don't hide things from each other." Hinata began to cry and wail as she turned into his hold and put her head on his chest as she cried. Naruto sat there rubbing her back, and about 10 minutes later when she began to hiccup from crying he asked, "Do you want to talk about it?" Hinata looked up at him and saw kindness in his eyes and she whipped the tears from her eyes and said, "I hate my father. He cares more about the clan than he does me. He actually had me believe he cared, but I could tell if it came to me or the clan I would always lose to him. I hate him." Naruto rubbed her back and said, "Hinata, do you love me?" Hinata blinked and asked, "What?" Naruto asked, "Do you love me?" Hinata looked down a moment and she said, "Yes." Naruto put his finger under her chin where they were looking at each other and he said, "I also love you. I know that I have said that I will make it where none of the women I have mother my children would be different, but you are special to me. I don't know how, but you have taken my heart. I have so many secrets I have to keep and yet I want to tell them all to you. No matter what, Hinata, I can honestly say that any other woman that I have in my future, no matter what I say, will be nothing but the mother of my children. To me you will be more. If I could have one that would be my wife, it would be you, that is if you would have me." Hinata was shocked and asked, "What are you asking me?" Naruto said, "To the rest of the world you will be no different than the other woman I will choose to be the mother of my children, and though I will have with them and will tell them I care for them, you will be the only one I will truly love with my heart. Behind closed doors when it's just you and me I will hold nothing back and you will know everything and you will hide nothing from me. What I am asking is if you will share my secrets and keep them from everyone and aid me in life, help me when there are things I can't do alone and stand by my side no matter what I must do." Hinata looked into his eyes and said, "Yes Naruto-kun. I will." Naruto nods and said, "You remember how I told you about my mother coming here?" Hinata nodded and Naruto said, "Shortly after you came here to live with me a man bumped into me and called me a youngling. I was shocked and then I realized he had stolen my lightsabers and I chased after him. When I found him I learned he is a Jedi who along with some others came here looking for my mother. They will be coming here soon because Mom had me tell him to bring the leaders with him of the group and we would explain everything. They don't know it, but when Mom found the enemy that she was wanting to protect the Republic, for she had delayed their plans by doing the same thing that was done at Malachor 5, and that was trap the enemy's ships in the gravity of the planet and have them crash into the planet. She destroyed she thinks around 400 ships by doing that, but when she escaped she was on her way to the Republic to warn them. An enemy ship followed her through hyperspace, which is like a Shushan for ships, and when they arrived here where she would have to change course to make the next jump to hyperspace, the ship attacked hers, which caused her to crash so they would know that she could not alert the Republic. It then left back to where the others were to help recover. It takes a month in hyperspace to get from their planet to this one and another month to get from this planet to the farthest planet in the Republic." Hinata was absorbing all of this and Naruto said, "Mom had suspected something because of how long it would take to get from one place to another, and then after I was born and the Kyuubi was sealed inside of me she made a comment to the fox and she learned that her fear was true." Hinata saw Naruto was silent and asked, "What was her fear, what is it?" Naruto said, "During wars an enemy will sometimes make a checkpoint where they can get supplies and regroup. Mom found out that Kyuubi and the other tailed demons had a second mission besides stopping the natural disasters on this planet. They were also to protect the planet population that the enemy that Mom calls the Ancients brought here as slaves from other people gaining control of this planet, and when the Ancients returned they were to help them quickly cripple any armies here by attacking the villages so they could be quickly turned into slaves so they could make this planet a checkpoint. Mom found out that there is a factory buried underground on an island here that would allow them to make any parts for their ships and armor for weapons. It's like the Star Forge I told you about but smaller. The ancients are going to come here and take over this planet, turning us all into slaves and breeding stock. Once she found this out and found out Kyuubi was going to try and influence me to where I can be used by the ancients, Mom killed him. I now have all his power but that I am absorbing over time, but the fox itself is dead. Hinata was shocked and said, "But what can we do?" in a scared voice. Naruto said, "Mom and I planned for me to use the Force and other things and manipulate the people of this world like she did as the Lord of the Sith and become the ruler of this world. I then planned to use the factory and build weapons and other things to allow us to defend this world. If we can stop the ancients here, even if it cost us all our lives, then the hundreds of billions in the Republic will be safe. The ancients need this world or all their plans are ruined." Mom's told me a few ideas she had to stop them, like shields for the planet and other things, and if I can do it quickly I can hopefully save the people here, but the problem is I am going to have to use people, kill people, trick people, and be cruel to some people so I can make my empire. I know that a lot will die and some people are going to hate me for what I have to do, but if my plan works then a lot more will live. To some I will be a monster, a murderer, but I can live with that choice if I can save everyone. Hinata asked, "Why don't you tell people?" Naruto said, "Think about it, Hinata. Did you believe me when I told you my mom was not from this planet? People already fear me because of Kyuubi. If I tell them the truth they will think I am crazy and either try and kill me or lock me away, and by the time they learn the truth it will be too late." Hinata looked down and asked, "Then why do you plan for our children? If they are born then they will be slaves if we fail or killed. I don't understand." Naruto said, "Mom hurt them when she faced them. She set them back by years. I don't know when they will come. It may not even be in my life, and the more time I have to set things up the less people will die. Mom had me draw blueprints up for a lot of things and has been teaching me about machines and droids and other things. If I can get my empire set up and then get the things she had me make plans for, then if we can get them built and running before they arrive, then they might not even be able to get to the planet. If that happens then our children would all be safe. Mom and I hope that if we can get the ones who came here to find her to help us, we might be able to do it quicker with less loss of life. If the ancients don't get this world then the Republic will have more and more time to get ready and possible set up some kind of trap to stop them. The problem is we don't know how far back Mom set their plans, so they can be here anytime from now to 1,000 years from now. From what Mom told me and what we know about Kyuubi, the guys in charge can't die of old age." Hinata thought about it and said, "So you're willing to sacrifice some to save all, just like your mother?" Naruto said, "Yeah, that's why I took a Sith name and have started to call myself Darth Razin. I have already started preparing. I gave Kakashi a gift that was a pair of sunglasses that were actually made of the material that the visors for the armored helmets I plan to use to test and see if bloodlines can still work with them, and so far they appear to work right." Hinata asked, "Then why didn't you have me try? I mean, I do have a bloodline." Naruto said, "I didn't want to use you. Even thought you might think I did with the armor you wear. It's not. That is something specific for my family I want. The armor I plan to use later is totally different." Hinata asked, "This factory you plan to use, do you know where it is?" Naruto said, "Yeah, each of the Biju know where it is since they have to guard it. Mom forced Kyuubi to tell her before she killed him. It will be a little hard to get to for me, and for someone who does not know how to use the Force it will be impossible." Hinata looked at him and asked, "Do you plan to use me?" Naruto said, "No, I don't plan to use you. If I did I would never have told you what I have. I just want someone to know. Hopefully understand me," as he closed his eyes. Hinata looked at him and asked, "Is that why you have nightmares?" Naruto looked at her and finally said, "No, from the day I was born until I was 4 years old I was treated like I was a demon in human form. People would beat me, starve me, try to kill me. From my memories Mom counted I was in the hospital over 800 times. The people who were supposed to take care of me would wait until the Hokage left and either let other hurt me or they did it themselves. Most of the council either wanted me dead or turned into a human weapon. Then when Mom finally was able to return to me, I came here before this temple was built, and the Sandyame tried everything he could to get me out so he could deny who I really was. I lived basically alone, always training and working here to build this place, and then when I finally had to go ask for food and supplies when I was almost out, the Sandyame had tried to arrest me with Anbu. Luckily I had already trained in my mind and body learning to use the force, and I was able to beat them. Then I nearly had to fight the Hokage himself, but we came to a small agreement after I threatened to take my father's jutsu and go to another village. After that day I did not step outside the gates here for several years. The Sandaime or Kakashi would come by a week before my birthday to get a list of what I needed for the year, and then on my birthday they would bring my supplies in storage scrolls to me. Even then he denied who I was until he let it slip after the Uchiha massacre, as he laid back onto the ground. Hinata looked at him and said, "So that's why you have nightmares?" Naruto nods and Hinata said, "I think I understand, you know Darth Razan, but to me you will always be Naruto-kun. No matter what you do, I will be by your side." Naruto smiled as he sat up and asked, "Do you mean it?" Hinata nods and he leans forward and said, "I love you, Lady Hinata." Hinata said, "And I, you my lord," as she pressed her lips into his and they shared a true kiss. After several moments they pulled back and Naruto said, "Come," as he stood up as he offered her his hand. Hinata stood up and Naruto held her hand as they made their way back to the temple. When they got back, Naruto walked her to where the hall divided to go to each of their rooms, and he said, "Good night, my lady." As he kissed her again and turned to leave, and Hinata held onto his hand and he stopped when she wouldn't let go, and he was about to say something when she said, "I told you I will be by your side. I know we are too young to do anything, which I am glad because I am not ready for that, but I also know I will have to share you soon so you can have your family you want to rule our empire. I want to have you alone for myself for now, just to be by you." Naruto was shocked and he asked, "Are you sure? I mean?" Hinata said, "Yes, I am sure. Let me get my night cloths and I will join you." Naruto nods and he watched her leave toward her room to get ready for bed, and he thought, "Mom, what's going on?" Kushina smiled and said, "She loves you, son. Don't worry about it. It happens. Enjoy." Naruto nods and Kushina sighed and thought, "Be there for him, Hinata. I fear dark times are coming and only he will be able to do what is necessary." Naruto walks into his room and get his night shirt and a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, and when he walked out he found Hinata was already there in his bed, and he walked over and saw she had a pair of night pants and a long shirt. He crawled into bed and laid down, and Hinata laid down on his shoulder and said, "Good night," as she closed her eyes and fell asleep shortly after. Naruto, who was still shocked, closed his eyes listening to her breathing and soon fell asleep. The next morning when Naruto awoke he stretched and found he was alone, and he got out of bed and thought, "Man, that was a great night's sleep." As he got ready for the day he found Hinata already doing her morning exercises, and he smiled and said, "How are you today, Hinata?" Hinata said, "Fine, master." Naruto sighed and thought, "I can't wait until she finishes training," and said, "We have school today, so are you ready?" Hinata nods, and after a few minutes of gathering last-minute items they left. On the way to the academy Hinata asked, "So what's your plan, Naruto-kun?" Naruto frowned and said, "For now I don't know. I need to wait until I see what the people who came for mom do to decide." Hinata nods and they got to the academy, and Naruto said, "After school today I want to begin teaching you how to use your lightsaber effectively." The day at the academy was as usual: lectures, lectures, and then some physical activity like sparring, kunai and shuriken throwing, and laps. When they got home that evening they started lightsaber practice. The next week went by like this, and Naruto sighed as he got out of bed, and he blinked and he found Hinata still in bed with him, and he thought, "Wait, if she's here then who's in the main hall?" As he got up and got dressed and woke Hinata up and said, "Someone's here, go get dressed and meet me in the main hall." Hinata nods and she quickly left to get dressed for the day. Naruto dressed in his black cloak and he walked into the main hall, and he looked around and asked, "How did you get in here, Ramsey, and where are the others?" Ramsey said, "They've been called back to the Republic. Things are heating up, so they left me the Ebon Hawk and went back with the Mandalorians to deal with some remnants of the Sith that have been attacking some of the outlining worlds." Naruto sighed and said, "Great. We need the others here. Do they know where this planet is and how soon can they get back?" Hinata walked in and Ramsey looked at her and raised an eyebrow, and Naruto said, "This is Hinata, my apprentice." Ramsey frowned and said, "I see. Yes, the others know where this planet is and they are going to wait on me in Revan." Where is Revan? Naruto sighed and he heard his mother and said, if you wish to speak with her you need to put me in forced sleep. Ramsey was confused and Hinata said, it's true. She can only appear when he's asleep. Ramsey sighed and said, fine but this better work. Naruto sat down in a meditation stance and Ramsey placed his hand on Naruto's head and Naruto soon passed out and Ramsey stepped back and the form of Revan slowly appeared and Ramsey said, Revan, is that you? Revan said, yes. I can't talk long so I have to be quick. I can't leave here. My son needs me here and we need help. Ramsey asked, what happened to you? Revan said, I was dying due to childbirth and because my husband was about to do something that would have put our son's life at risk I used an ancient technique I learned while looking for the star forge to bound myself through the force to my son. Ramsey frowned and said, in other words you're consuming his life force to stay alive. I fought a Sith Lord who did the same thing. It's a technique born of the dark side of the force Revan. Why would you use such a technique on your own son? Revan said, don't go preaching to me about the dark side of the force. I know the truth about the force Ramsey, there is no light side or dark side but the force itself. It's what we do with it that defines which we are aligned to. Ramsey said, all this time we were searching for you because we never felt you die in the force only to find out that you did die and now you're killing your son. Revan said, no I am not, there are things you don't understand. There is dangers coming to the Republic that will cost the Republic to fall. This world needs our help or it will cost us all. Ramsey frowned and then said, Revan, I don't know what you believe but I can see how your influence is twisting your son as well as killing him. You're no better than your former master and Sith Lord Kreia. I won't allow you to continue to manipulate him creating more death and violence Revan. Revan got a scared look on her face and said, you can't, my son needs me, there are things you don't understand. Please listen to me. Ramsey said, I am tired of listening to fallen Jedi and Sith Lords. I don't know how you can think that you're doing the right thing but you're wrong. I am sorry Revan but it's time for you to pass on, as he walked toward Naruto. Revan went and sent a force push toward Ramsey who used one of his own and as he started getting closer and closer to Naruto Revan's body began to disappear and she looked at Hinata and said, protect my son, please, as she disappeared. Hinata acted quickly and activated her lightsaber and got in front of Naruto's body and said, I won't let you get near him. Ramsey said, don't make me fight you little girl. You can't beat me. I am going to break her connection to him and save his life. Hinata said, no you're not. I won't let you, as she took a swing at him and he sent her flying into the wall with a force push. Hinata groaned and Naruto's eyes flashed open and sent a force push toward Ramsey sending him flying back. Naruto jumped to his feet and activated his lightsaber and said, you're not getting near my mother. Ramsey got up and activated his lightsaber and said, she's using you boy. Naruto said, no, she's saving me. Ramsey said, you can't defeat me boy. I have more experience fighting better fighter than you can imagine. Surrender and I won't hurt you or the girl but I am going to stop Revan. She's become an abomination in the force. Naruto said, takes one to know one. Ramsey said, I see she's twisted your mind. You have fallen to the dark side of the force. Naruto who had put himself between Ramsey and Hinata who was standing ready to fight said, there is no dark side or light. There is only one force. Ramsey said, she's corrupted your mind boy. Don't make me kill you. Naruto said, you can't. I am more powerful than you can imagine. Ramsey said, spoken like a true Sith Lord. Naruto shook his head and said, why does my mother wish to protect such ignorant fools? You wish to fight me when the true threat is coming to take us all. Ramsey said, have you seen this threat or has your mother only told you about it? How do you know she's not lying to you? She's become corrupted by the dark side and she's corrupting you. There is no threat. Naruto said, I have proof there is. It's you who are fooling yourself. The ancients are coming and will destroy us all. We don't need to fight but I won't let you take the only family I have left. I won't suffer again because of ignorant fools. Hinata who was behind Naruto said, we won't let you. You're not going to take her away. Ramsey looked at her and then at Naruto and sighed and said, I see, there's no chance that I can redeem you then I must eliminate you before you have a chance to cause pain and suffering. Prepare yourself, as he took a stance. Naruto thought, Mom, are you okay? Kushina's voice came weak and said, Yes son, I used most of my connection to the Force to speak with him, focus or you will die. I can't help you Anym, as her voice faded away from his mind. Naruto thought, Mom, Mom, Mom. Naruto fear for his mother began clouding his mind and he said, you bastard. She tried to warn you about the danger coming and you try to kill her. I won't tolerate that. I will destroy you. You think you can defeat me because I am young, then you are a fool. If you refuse to even hear the truth, then I will save the people of this world from the ancients and you as well. I will bring peace and prosperity to this world, and as for the Republic, you can go fuck yourselves. If I have to, I will embrace the darkness of the Force. You fear what I might be. You should be more afraid of what I am. As red chakra began to surround him as his eyes changed to red with gold slits. Ramsey could feel the evil radiating off of Naruto and Naruto said, Hinata, stay back. He's too good for you. Hinata nods and Naruto then quickly created 10 Kajbunshin and each held a lightsaber, and Ramsey was wide-eyed and Naruto start to circle Ramsey with his clones, and then as one they began to attack him each with 2 lightsabers. Ramsey ducked one strike and sent a force push to one and it went up in smoke, and he back flipped over another and sliced the clone through the back as it went up in smoke as he blocked 2 strikes with his lightsaber and jumped doing a split hitting both, and they went up in smoke, and then he was sent flying out of the doors of the temple by a force push from Naruto. Naruto and his clones began to chase him outside, and as they battled their speed increased, and as they reached the gates Ramsey used the force to blow the gates open. Across the village a few minutes earlier people began to get scared as they felt the Kyuubi chakra. The Hokage bolted to his feet and screamed, Anbu. 2 squads appeared and he said, follow me quickly to that chakra, as they all left in a shushin. Kakashi was eating breakfast with Asuma, Kurenai, Guy, and Anko when they felt the chakra and he said, shit, that's Naruto, and all of them quickly headed toward the Kyuubi chakra. As people began to arrive they saw Naruto using 2 lightsabers surrounded by red chakra fighting a man with a single lightsaber, and Naruto said, I won't allow you to harm her. You will have to kill me first. Ramsey said, I intend to, and if I have to, your apprentice as well. I won't allow her to continue to live. Naruto sent a kick to Ramsey's stomach and then used force push to throw him into a wall before he threw one of his lightsabers into the air and raised his hand as lightning shot out of his hand. Ramsey blocked the lightning with his lightsaber and the Hokage said, everyone get back. Naruto, seeing force lightnings not working, threw his second lightsaber into the air as he continued with one arm using lightning and used his other to take off his cloak and then changed hands sending another bolt of lightning and shed his other side of his cloak, and he said, you have threatened not only my life but also the life of both women I love, my mother and Hinata. I will destroy you. Prepare to die. As both his lightsabers that were floating in the air got in front of Naruto began spinning to block. Ramsey saw this and thought, shit, he's just as strong as Krei. But what happened next shocked him to the core. Naruto reached both his thumbs to his mouth and bit them and then whipped them down both his sleeveless arms. Everyone was watching this, and Razmi, who had started to move to attack Naruto while he was mostly defenseless, was not prepared when seals appeared running down both arms, and suddenly 10 lightsabers handles appeared out of his arm and floated in the air as they began to circle Ramsey, who had now gotten away from the wall. Naruto closed his eyes and said, you should feel honored. This is my own original attack I created in honor of my mother and father. No one has ever seen this before, but you will not survive. I won't allow you to harm anyone I vow to protect. Not my family, not my friends, not my village, and not my world. Your life ends here. May the Force be with you. Goodbye. Naruto then, to the shock of everyone, disappeared in a yellow flash, and then a lightsaber behind Ramsey activated and a blue blur was seen heading across from where it had activated, but Ramsey dodged to the left of the first strike. Then a second lightsaber activated and a purple blur shot through and Ramsey dodged just barely. Next a yellow lightsaber and then a blue lightsaber. No one could see Naruto, but they saw the brief yellow flash as the lightsaber activated and before it disappeared. As each blade activated, the one that had activated before fell to the ground, shut off, and to everyone's shock Ramsey avoided all 10 slashes just barely, and Naruto original lightsabers that had floated high into the air now began to descend as Naruto appeared where they were holding each blade as he fell from above. Ramsey, who was panting heavy by the attack, had moved his blade to block the 2 lightsabers at the last moment but only blocked one. He screamed as his left arm was cut clean off at the shoulder and used a force push to launch Naruto away as he force leapt back and then ran away as fast as he could. Naruto, who was sweating and had patches where blood was coming out of his skin, fell to his knees as he began to cough up blood, and he deactivated his blades as he fell to the ground. Hinata was there in moments and caught him as he fell, and she held him close. The third said, "I want all these weapons confiscated and brought to me. Kakashi, I want you in charge of that. Do not let any of them vanish." Kakashi nods as he began to gather them and saw that there were seals he recognized as Hiraishin seals on all but Naruto main too, and he thought, "You have surpassed your father Naruto. I don't know how that man survived, but even I don't think I could survive it." 3 days later, Naruto slowly opened his eyes and found himself in a white room, and he knew immediately that he was not home. He felt a weight on his hand and saw Hinata asleep in a chair beside his bed with her head on his hand, and he smiled and winced as he tried to move and found that his body had taken a lot of damage somehow. He entered his mind and saw his mother, who was partially faded, was in a forced sleep trying to recover herself, and he thought, "I will not lose you, mother. I will destroy any who try to take you away from me." He walked over and kissed her head as he then left his mind, and when he blinked he saw Hinata looking at him, and he smiled and asked, "Are you okay?" Hinata smiled and dove onto his lips with hers, and they continued like this for several moments until a cough drew their attention and both broke apart, and they saw the Sandaime standing there along with a white-hair man, and the third asked, "How do you feel, Naruto?" Naruto tried to sit up but Winston said, "I hurt. It feels like when I was 4. The third frowned and said, "It's not surprising. Using the Kyuubi chakra and whatever else you were doing in that battle took a heavy toll on your body. If it was not for your healing ability, then you most likely would be in the hospital for months." Naruto glanced at the white-hair man, and the third said, "Sorry Naruto, this is Jiraiya of the Sannin, your godfather." Naruto said, "I see." The third said, "What was that you were doing in that battle, Naruto?" Naruto frowned and closed his eyes in thought and said, "Force rage. I lost my head in battle and started drawing too heavy on it, and Kyuubi chakra didn't help either." The third asked, "Why were you using Kyuubi chakra like that, Naruto?" Naruto sighed and said, "That man wanted to kill my mother and me. I had to defend us." Jiraiya said, "How do you know how to use the fox chakra?" Naruto said, "Mom trained me, and during my training I met the fox, and after he insulted me and threatened everyone I care for, I destroyed his mind. After that it changed my eye color and I was forced to learn how to use it since Kyuubi's not there to control it any longer." The third asked, "Why didn't you tell us?" Naruto said, "Why should I? I mean, I have to basically live in total isolation just so I won't be attacked. If people are going to hate me for even being alive, why the hell should I give them a reason to kill me?" The third sighed and asked, "Where is Kushina? I had Kurenai go with Hinata back to your temple and they couldn't find her." Naruto glanced at Hinata and she said, "Your mother must have left to recover after her attack, Naruto. I don't know where she went." Naruto sighed and said, "I don't know then. She comes and goes so much, I wouldn't be surprised if she went after him or if she found some place to hide and heal." The third frowned and asked, "Why was he after her and you in the first place, and who was he?" Naruto said, "The abilities I was using during our fight are called the Force. I won't tell you much about it, but it allows you to draw on the spiritual energy that are around you, and if you learn to control it you can do a lot of things." Jiraiya frowned at this and asked, "That still doesn't explain why he was after you and who he was." Naruto sighed and said, "My mother was trained in the use of the Force from early childhood. Those who are trained in the Force are usually called either Jedi or Sith. The Jedi try and live a life holy men is the best way to describe them, and the Sith are like cult followers. They believe the Force is divided into light and dark sides, but the Force is actually a neutral. The Jedi and Sith have a small war going with each other, believing they are the ones who are right, but since there are so few of them you rarely see or hear of them. My mother somehow learned of both ways, and she chose to believe that the Force is neither light or dark but a neutral. She trained me to believe so as well. That man who came here was a Jedi. He wanted my mother to return to his order, and when she refused he tried to kill her. She's been severely weakened because of nearly dying giving birth to me, so she could not fight him very well. When he went to kill her, Hinata first stoked him until I was free to fight, and then I had Hinata fall back because she nowhere near ready to fight someone like him. When he threatened Mom and her, I started drawing on Kyuubi chakras since I can use the force nearly as well as my mother when she was in her prime. My body is not strong enough to face him. I used Kyuubi to try and give me a boost. Luckily for me, he did not expect the boost it gave me. I forced him out of there and then the rest is history. Jiraiya asked, what about that final jutsu you used? How did it come about? Naruto frowned and said, that. It's something I am still working on. I can control 12 lightsabers, although it is mostly limited since I can only hold them in the air at one time for a few minutes, but I can't really move when I do it since it takes so much concentration. I have to have the Hiraishin seal on them do all the work while I drag the lightsaber with me. Each time I appear I have to drop the one I am holding and grab the next one because I don't know where exactly I will appear around the lightsaber, so I only have about a second to grab and activate the blade as I pass to the next seal. I placed it on each of my lightsabers I carry with me, but it's still not perfect. He was able to use the force to predict my line of attack and move out of the way each time. I was lucky he only had one lightsaber himself, or I would have died at the end of that attack, as he looked down. Jiraiya said, it's still impressive. I heard rumors about it already in the next village over. They call it the Dance of Lights. Naruto said, I will name it once I finish it. I wanted to make an attack like Dad's that would be impossible to defeat. Jiraiya said, still, you must be pretty good with seals. Naruto said, actually, no. I do a lot with storage seal, but all the other seals I just copied from Dad's scrolls. If I knew anything about seals I would fix Hinata. Everyone including Hinata was confused about that, and Jiraiya asked, what do you mean? Naruto said, her father and I, when we checked to make sure that guy we found in her hospital room did not do anything to her, found she had a restriction seal on her back. We think it was from the Kumo nin who tried to kidnap her. Hinata asked, why did you not tell me, Naruto? Naruto said, I forgot. Mom and Kakashi told me the only person they knew who might be able to remove it is Jiraiya. Jiraiya sighed and said, let me see the seal, girl. Hinata looked at Naruto a moment and she turned around and raised her shirt back, and Jiraiya asked, where is? Naruto said, over her heart in the back. Jiraiya frowned and sent a little chakra to the area, and he looked at it and whistled a moment and said, interesting. Hinata looked over her shoulder and asked, what? Jiraiya said, it's a memory restrictor. A very good one. Someone took a lot of time on this, so I doubt it was the Kumo nin. This would have taken about a day to make. Someone put it on you to keep you from remembering something. Naruto blinked and Hinata asked, why? Jiraiya said, I don't know, let me undo it and we will find out. As he bit his thumb and started to draw around the seal, and after a few minutes he said, this will hurt a little, as he activated the seal. Hinata gasped in pain a moment and her eyes closed and she fluttered her eyes. She was disoriented a few minutes and she ran to the bathroom and threw up. Naruto frowned and the third walked toward the bathroom door and asked Hinata, who had closed the door when she went in, are you alright? A few moments later the door opened and she came out a little pale and said, I saw a Hyuga family secret. I don't want to talk about it, in a weak voice. The third frowned and nodded, and Naruto saw the look in Hinata's eyes and said, please don't tell anyone about that. I think if someone put the time to put it on Hinata, then they would not be happy with it being removed. Please. The third sighed and said, very well. Now who exactly was that man? Naruto said, he called himself Ramsey. I had met him once before a few months back. He was the man I chased into the woods that day Anbu was sent after me. At that time he had picked my pocket to get my attention. When I caught him he asked me to deliver a message to my mother that he would like to request a meeting about her former home. I didn't really understand what the request was about, but then he showed up there the day we were attacked. How long was I out anyways? Hinata said, 3 days. Naruto frowned and asked, where's my lightsabers? The third said, I have them. Naruto held up his hand and said, please return them. The third said, not until you tell me about them. Naruto said, fine, when people start dying from the explosion don't say I didn't warn you, as he lowered his hand. The third asked, what explosion? Naruto said, each of my lightsabers have a second seal inside of them that I copied from my father's notes. I say that each lightsaber has the explosive ability of 10 exploding tags to ensure no one learns the secret of the Hiraishin and the lightsabers. The third said, "You're bluffing." Naruto said, "Hinata, you have yours," as he looked at her. Hinata said, "Yes." Naruto said, "Let me see it a moment." Hinata walked over and pulled hers out and handed it to him, and he put it under the cover and closed his eyes a moment as he held the cover over it, and everyone could hear clicks and pops under the cover, and Naruto slowly pulled out a small circled disc and he said, "Here you go, Sealmaster," as he handed it to Jiraiya. Jiraiya looked at it and frowned and he said, "He's telling the truth, sensei. This is one of his father's seals, I know. Only thing I don't know is how it's actually activated, but if it is, then this would blow up and kill anyone close by," as he handed it back to Naruto. Naruto repeated what he did earlier and he held the blade above his head and activated it, and both blades shot out, and he deactivated it and said, "Thank you, Hinata, and sorry about that, but I had to prove to the third here I spoke the truth." The third asked, "But why would they explode?" Naruto said, "Let's just say that the ones that I held in my arm were held there for a reason. If I don't activate them myself in the correct order once a week after they were last used, they will start overloading and blow up, and only I know the order. If after the week, sealed or not, they will blow up." The third looked at him for several minutes and frowned and said, "Fine. You win," as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a scroll, and Naruto unsealed the scroll and saw all of them were there, and he nods and covers them up and said, "After you leave I will reset them." The third asked, "What exactly are those?" Naruto said, "My future clan's secret weapons. It's originally a weapon of the Sith and Jedi, and they kill to keep it." The third frowned and asked, "How did he get inside of your home?" "I checked with Hinata and she said he let himself in." Naruto sighed and said, "It's my fault. I forgot to reset the security seals after Hinata's birthday the night before and he was able to get in." He looked at her and said, "I trust our home is locked." Hinata said, "Yes. The gates fixed themselves before I returned after the fight." Naruto sighed and said, "Dad sure was a genius of seals." Jiraiya said, "I want to take you on as my apprentice." Naruto looked at Hinata and said, "Why should I?" Jiraiya said, "Because I taught your father everything he knows and I can use the force as you call it." Everyone looked at Jiraiya and Naruto said, "Really, show me." Jiraiya pulled out a small jar and rubbed the content on his face in a funny pattern, and his hands became partially webbed, and Naruto watched him and he said, "That's not the force. This is," as he held up his hand and force slammed Jiraiya into the wall. Everyone looked at Jiraiya, who fell out of the crack in the wall, and he wiped the weird paint off his face and he said, "What was that?" Naruto said, "The force. I don't know what you used, but it wants the force, so tell me, why should I become your apprentice?" Jiraiya said, "I can teach you the Rasengan." Naruto said, "I have the scrolls for it already, what else?" Jiraiya frowned and said, "Summoning." Naruto said, "And after that? Then what?" Jiraiya said, "Sealing." Naruto said, "And?" Jiraiya blinked and asked, "What do you want from me? I have a lot of things I can teach you." Naruto said, "Look, I have plans to make my own clan, teach my children and become a clan head and go from there. What besides sealing and summoning do you have that could help me with that?" Jiraiya said, "I can teach you the ways of women." Naruto deadpanned and said, "Mom's informed me you're a pervert. If there was another way I would never have let you near Hinata a few minutes ago. As for learning about people, have been doing it for millions of years all over the galaxy. It's in our instinct, so why should I learn from you?" Jiraiya frowned and looked at the third, who sighed and nods, and Jiraiya said, "They're a group of S-rank criminals who have plans to capture each of the Bijus and their Jinchurikis. Even if the Kyuubi is dead, they still will come after you and try to extract its power and kill you in the process." Naruto said, surprising Jiraiya and the third, "Black cloaks with red clouds." Jiraiya locked his eyes on Naruto and asked, "How do you know that?" Naruto said, "The force allows me to see the possible future at times. It's not set in stone, but I have seen them in the future a few times, but I don't know much about them. I do know 2 of them have the Sharingan." Jiraiya said, "2, impossible." Naruto said, "No, one looks like an older version of Sasuke and the other I know his name from a picture I saw in the history of this village." The third asked, "Who is it, Naruto?" Naruto said, "Uchiha Madara," making both men wide-eyed. The third said, "Impossible, Madara died fighting the Shadaime." Naruto said, "Hey, I am just telling you what I saw." His Sharingan is funky though, even more than the older Sasuke one. It's not like Kakashi, but you can tell it's the Sharingan. Jiraiya asked, is there any others you might have seen or know, or anything that could help us learn who they are? Naruto frowned and said, there's a woman who turns into paper, a guy with these weird rings in his eyes, and a guy who looks like a fish. There's also a plant-looking guy. There's also some puppet guy. Those are the only ones I have seen in my visions that I can remember. Jiraiya had his notebook out and he said, Naruto, if you were to see these men, would you be able to identify them? Naruto nods and Jiraiya turned his notebook around showing a drawing and asked, was the guy's eye like that? Showing the Rinnegan. Naruto nods and Jiraiya said, get me a bingo book please sensei. The third asked, do you believe him Jiraiya? Jiraiya said, not at first, but I do know a girl several years ago who could control paper as well as a boy with the Rinnegan. It was back during the war in Rain Country and I trained them for a few months so they could survive. Now can you please get me a bingo book? The third sighed and had an Anbu go and get one and he asked, so what else have you seen Naruto? Naruto said, I don't really know. The future is always changing and I can't be for sure that what I tell you will happen or not. It's just a possible future. Only reason I even made a connection was I seen a glimpse of a possible death in the future and I saw those men and what looked like a raccoon being taken from a boy and into a statue. Jiraiya asked, any other visions of the future? Naruto said, some big woman castrating you. Jiraiya paled and said, that's enough of the future for me to know. Hinata was sitting quietly in a chair and Naruto kept glancing at her and he asked, how soon can I get out of here? The third said, tomorrow. Just then an Anbu appeared with a bingo book and Jiraiya grabbed it and flipped several pages quickly and asked, is that one of them? Showing Kisame. Naruto nods and he did the same for Itachi, Sasori, and Zetsu. Jiraiya said, alright thanks Gaki. This information will help me check some things, as he wrote it down and closed the bingo book. Naruto nods and asked, is that all you need to know? The third said, for now. Naruto said, then if you don't mind I would like to rest and leave me and Hinata alone. Both men quietly left deep in thought and Naruto got out of bed and started to slip on his cloths and Hinata was looking down not paying attention and he created a Kajbunshin and handed it one of his lightsabers and it left through the window as he was finishing getting dressed and he walked over and grabbed her hand. Hinata blinked and looked at him as he helped her out of her chair and he pulled her close and a few seconds later they were standing inside the temple and he asked, what's wrong? Hinata was confused a moment and Naruto grabbed his lightsaber that was on the ground and she asked, how did we get here? Naruto said, I used the Hiraishin to get us back here. Now tell me what's wrong Hinata. Hinata said, nothing, as she looked away. Naruto turned her around with his hand under her chin and he said, don't lie to me, in a commanding voice. Hinata said, I wish to kill the Hyuga Council and my father. Hinata said, I wish to kill the Hyuga Council and my father. Naruto blinked and asked, why? Note: sexual content and graphic violence in Hinata next speak. If you don't want to read it, skip to the end next note. Hinata looked down and said, a year before my mother passed away I was put in a room with all the other children under the age of 13 in the Hyuga compound. I did not know why we were taken there. My cousin Neji, whose father had died a year earlier, was there and he attacked me, blaming me for his father's death. I started to cry and I ran out of the room while the guard who was watching us forced Neji away. I heard a few female voices and I followed the voices trying to find my mother. The voices were coming down a tunnel that leads under the Hyuga compound. I went down the tunnel and I walked out onto a balcony that had set of stairs walking down to a chamber below. I could see as each of the women of the clan were all down there and I looked for my mother in the group of women. I finally saw my mother as she was led up onto a central table and two male branch members walked up and ripped my mother's cloths off her. They then gagged her and tied her over a table that was pointing toward the balcony. As she was tied down, her eyes locked onto mine and she was wide-eyed and she tried to get free but she couldn't speak or get free, and I watched as my father and each of the council member all took turns with her. I didn't understand what was going on and my mother by the time it was over could not walk, and then the two guards took her to a room to the side and another they brought another woman and another council member and my father, each taking a turn at them. After each time my father and the Kusal members would take some kind of pill until they did every woman in the clan. I watched each and every woman being taken and I was scared. The look in my mother's eyes when she saw me froze me to the core. I don't know how long I was there, but my mother finally came and took me to my room. I was confused by what had happened and I asked her what that was. She told me it's a Hyuga family secret tradition. She explained to me how they do it to show the females in the Hyuga clan they are nothing but breeding stock. I told her I didn't understand and she looked at me with such sadness in her eyes. She then put that seal on my back and told me I should have to watch as that happened to her. 9 months later my mother gave birth to my sister Hanabi. As my mother was recovering in her room I snuck into her room to see her and she was asleep and I heard someone coming and I hid under her bed. A council member woke her and told her that day that she would have to continue having another child until she had a male. My mother told him no, she wasn't going to force more daughter to undergo that tradition for a bastard clan like the Hyuga. The council member killed my mother. I heard her scream and saw his hand fall to the side of the bed as blood slowly fell to the ground. After he left I got out from under the bed and saw my mother's dead body. I ran and cried in my room and my father came in a little later with a sad look on his face and told me my mother died from childbirth. I know when my sister is old enough they will do the same thing to her. I don't want that to happen. I want to kill those bastards before it happens. Note: okay, you can read. Naruto looked at her and said, "I'm sorry for your mother's death." Hinata looked at him and asked, "Will you help me save my sister?" Naruto said, "Yes." Hinata hugged him and said, "Thank you." Naruto sighed and said, "We need to talk about something." Hinata asked, "What?" as she let go and stepped back. Naruto said, "After what happened the other night I don't care about saving the Republic anymore. They tried to take my mother from me and hurt you. I won't allow that. I am going to build my empire like I had planned and make it where not only the ancients can't come here but also the Republic. I want them to leave us alone. Anyone who tries to hurt those I care about will die. The Hyuga Council and your father will die. I am tired of people trying to hurt me. It stops now. I don't care who get hurt in the process but I will protect those I care for. I don't care who I have to use to do it but I will. I will teach you to use the Force to aid me so you can be by my side. I will build the empire of Darth Razin. I will become the protector and ruler of this world. My empire shall never fall and all who oppose it shall be destroyed. It will take time but we will do it. Will you become my second in command and take your place as my right-hand lady Hinata, serve me and follow my orders?" Hinata watched as Naruto's eyes turned yellow as he spoke and she said, "Yes my master. I will follow your orders and I will destroy all who oppose you my lord." Naruto said, "Good Lady Hinata, from this day forward you are my sword. I will teach you all you need to know and you will become my one true love, my lover, my empress of power. The Jedi fear the dark side of the Force. I shall embrace the dark side and the light side of the Force. I will become the hero to those who can't protect themselves from the evil of this world and I will become a demon to those who dare stand in my way. I will destroy the Jedi, the Sith, the ancients and even death itself if they dare oppose me." Hinata was entranced by his words and convictions and she said, "Yours will be the greatest empire ever my lord. I will do your bidding always Lord Revan." Naruto looked right into her eyes and saw her unwavering devotion to him and he let his anger slip away and he pulled her close and said, "I will love you my lady forever. I will protect your sister and bring her into my empire. I will use everything my mother has taught me as well as what my father left me to make it happen. You will be my one true love. I will create an empire that shall last for all times that I shall rule and you shall be by my side," as he kissed her passionately. She returned the kiss with love, compassion, lust and devotion and when they broke apart she asked, "Will you still take other women?" Naruto said, "Not as I will you. I will use anyone and everyone as a tool in my empire besides you. I don't know how long I will live but I will make sure that the empire that I build does not go away after I have become one with the Force. I promised my mother I would give her lots of grandchildren. There are only 2 women I will not break a promise to. The only 2 who truly care for me. My mother, Darth Revan, and you Lady Hinata. I promise you here and now no matter who I take to bed or what I tell them they will be nothing but tools in my empire. Only you will hold my heart and soul. Only you will know my secrets and only you will rule by my side. The others will be nothing to me. I know that it might seem I am going to be just like the Hyuga clan, but I am only going to use them to fulfill my promise to my mother. I promised her grandchildren, and I know that you would be willing to risk your health to give me all of them, but I will not risk your life, my love, like that when I can just use other women who will serve in my empire. Only you will rule by my side. Will you accept that? Hinata thought. I knew I would have to share him before I learned the truth, and I accepted that. He will protect my sister, the only true family I have, and he will only love me and let me be by his side. Only I will know the real him. I am the one Revan asked to protect her son. He has done so much for me and cares for me, and he does not want to risk losing me. He's right. Why should he risk his true love over something like having multiple children to keep his promise to his mother? He has never broken a promise to me, and he says he never will. Why should I ever doubt him? And she said, I will be by your side, my lord. I will do thy bidding, and I don't care who you use as long as you promise I will be the only one to hold your heart, and you will protect my only true family, my sister Hanabi. I don't know any longer if we share the same father or not, and I don't care. Our mother cared for us and they killed her. As long as the ones who took her from me pay, I don't care. I will serve you as your lover, your apprentice, your right hand. I will become your sword and strike at the hearts of your enemies and do thy bidding. I am Use, my heart, my mind, my body, and my soul belong to you, my master. I don't care if you are Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze, or if you are Darth Razan, son of Darth Revan. I will do as you ask, my love. Naruto said, then it's settled. From this day forward you are Lady Hinata, the right hand of Darth Revan. May all who stand in your way fall to the ground dead, and all who oppose you feel your wrath. So says I, Darth Razan, the true master of the Force. Hinata smiled and said, thank you, my master. In a ship on its way through hyperspace, a man with one arm closed his eyes and thought, darkness is growing stronger now and concealing everything. I fear that boy is the cause. I must convince the others to come with me to stop him, or I fear all will be lost. I only hope they will listen. The next day Naruto woke up with Hinata by his side, and after they got ready Naruto said, all right Hinata. In order for you to become ready we will have to train harder than ever before. Hinata said, yes master. Naruto said, good. I want to explain my plans to you. Since the attack the other day, a lot of people are going to be looking at us closely for a while, so we are going to have to use the most important thing a ninja must learn. Deception. The third is going to be paying close attention, and I believe others will as well, and we cannot let them know what is going on because they will stop us, and if my empire is to work before the ancients arrive, then we must not raise suspicion until it's too late. I learned while you were recovering from your memories that a group of S-rank criminal are going to try and come after me and the others who hold one of the Biju. I don't know what they want, but I had a suspicion because of a vision I had who they might be. I gave a little info to Jiraiya to draw his attention away from me and to check on those men. He wanted to take me as an apprentice, but that would draw too much attention right now. He can help track down the Biju for me so I can destroy them so the ancients can't use them against me later. Hinata said, that is wise, my master. If we must hide our skills, then we don't need a Sannin flashing it to everyone, and the Biju are indeed a threat if Kyuubi was any indication. Naruto nods and said, yes, now it's not just those two who will be keeping an eye on us. I am sure the Hyuga will as well, because they will want to try and get the secret of our power, and I figure the third and possible Danzo as well will. Hinata asked, who is Danzo? Naruto said, he's a council member who got power by nearly causing a civil war here in the village. He has his own Anbu called Root that follow his orders. I have already started a plan to use him to aid me by using Sasuke. I have learned it was Sasuke who stole the chakra sabers I was going to give you. He followed me to the weapon shop that day, and after I became suspicious of him I found him practicing with them. I could have killed him and recovered them, but I decided to use him instead. I appeared before him again as Darth Razan and used Force Lightning to make him submit. I should have done that before when he was attacking you, but back then I did not want to hurt anyone if I could keep from it. Now he is a tool that I will use, and if he ever tries to stand in my way I will destroy him. Now, as I was saying, I had him go to Danzo and make it seem like he would give Danzo power on the council when he got his clan seat by voting how Danzo wants. In exchange he give him material to get stronger. I had him getting jutsu and weapon training so he can use those blades he stole. Hinata was shocked hearing this and asked, "Why don't you just kill him now and Danzo?" Naruto said, "Deception, my lady. Deception. If we start killing everyone now, they will unite against us, and though we will become powerful, we do not have the influence to take over yet. We will have to position ourselves and build an army, and then when the time is right we strike quickly and take this planet by storm." Hinata looked down and said, "Forgive me, my lord, I guess I do not understand how we are to build your empire." Naruto saw her look down and he walked over and raised her head and said, "It's okay, my dear. If it was not for my mother's teaching I would not either. You see, inside my mind when I would train with my mother time goes by slower there. I trained what could be considered hundreds of years under my mother in there. She explained how you have to use political and military power and use enemies against each other. Just trust me and follow my orders and all will be okay." Hinata nods and Naruto said, "Good, for now the main thing we need to focus on is training. Both of us were actually defeated by Ramsey the other night. If I had not used my ultimate attack he would have killed me and then you. He's been wounded now, and if I were to guess he has left to get help. He's seen what I can do and will be prepared next time, so I must get stronger as well. I don't know how soon he will return or when, but we have to get ready. The Republic, the Jedi, the Sith, and the Ancients are both our enemies now. We must prepare. I will be training with you because I see I am not strong enough yet either. When we are here alone we will show who we really are, but when we are in the village we will just appear as we were before. We will stay in the middle of the class in grades hiding our true skills. We will watch those around us and see what we can use. If you see anything you think could be of use, inform me and we will use it if it will aid us to get our goal quicker. You will continue your training under Anko and Kurenai if they continue in sparring with Tenten. Do not inform anyone we know Sasuke has those chakra saber or about any of our plans and schemes. One slip up and we will both be destroyed, and you know what will happen then." Hinata saw a vision of her mother being used and then her dead body, which in her mind flashed to that of her little sister, and she nodded and Naruto said, "Good. Then let's begin." After that day Naruto began training Hinata. To everyone else nothing had changed since Naruto and Hinata did nothing to draw attention to themselves. They still had lunch with Kiba, Choji, and Shikamaru. Word had spread about Naruto's attack and his use of his father jutsu, and rumors spread far and wide about what he could do until they became stupid, like shooting fire out of eyes or killing an army of 1,000,000. He hid what he could do to make it harder for people to know what he could or could not do, and when asked if he could show it he acted stupid and asked, "Show what?" Hinata on Saturdays still learned a little from Anko and Kurenai and sparred with Tenten. Naruto had began training with her as well to make himself stronger. Rasen kept appearing in front of Sasuke at least once a week, telling him new things to learn and to just ignore the other his age and not draw attention to himself. Sasuke had become pissed by the rumors of Naruto power and wanted to fight him, but after getting handed to him by Rasen he yielded. Danzo had gave Sasuke a few kenjutsu, taijutsu, and regular jutsu like he asked for, but kept trying to get him to join his route. Rasen would have Sasuke make a copy of everything that Danzo made as blackmail against Danzo, so Naruto jutsu vault was increasing as well. Naruto worried about his mother as Revan was in a coma. Every day a little more of her would return, but trying to fight Ramsey weakened her hold in the force, and even though she had not fully returned. The third Hokage had put Anbu watching Naruto home for a while, but after 3 months passed and nothing happened he had to stop. Jiraiya took the information he received from Naruto and began tracking it down, but when he started investigating they went into hiding as far as he could tell, so he backed off and waited. Hinata became stronger in the force and could use some of the force powers like force pull and push and force sleep and lightning, but Naruto did not want to take the chance she would become too powerful, so he kept close watch on what she learned. Ramsey himself, after leaving the planet to inform the others, was ordered to not worry about it for now, since that world did not have space travel, and the Jedi Council sent him to worlds to deal with political troubles trying to restore order. They said after the immediate crises was taken care of they would look into what to do. Bastilla and Jolie both heard what happened and did not know what to think about what they heard, but the Jedi Council had them working all the time trying to restore peace and order. Mandalore, after he heard Revan was basically dead and that Ramsey tried to kill her son, beat him to an inch of his life and would have ended it had Bastilla and Jolie not stopped him, and he took his people and disappeared. Time went by quickly and Naruto was now 15 and Hinata was 14 and today they were starting their final year in the academy. Tenten had graduated a few months before and Naruto released her from her training with them since it had been over 2 years. Hinata had grown her hair out till it went to mid-back and still wore the armor Naruto had made her and wore her purple robe over the top of it, and Naruto had quit wearing white and now wore black everywhere. Black gloves, black sunglasses because his eyes changed color so much except when it was just him and Hinata. He wore Ichani armor as well but dyed it black and tied shuriken and kunia holsters on his legs as well as he started wearing a vest like a junin which housed storage scroll, but he switched from wearing white cloaks like he did when he was younger to wearing black ones, and he still kept his mask on him but now it was sealed on his body. He quit relying so much on his lightsaber, and after Hinata got to where she could hold her own against him in a spar he had her focus on kunai and shurikens as well. Hinata sighed as she sat down in her desk waiting for class to start, and she whispered to Naruto who was sitting beside her, "Master, why do all these people seem so childish? I mean they are the same age as me and they act like little children." Kiba, though he is as close as a we let in as a friend, jokes around about how cool it's going to be when we get out of this year and start kicking. Shikamaru has become even more lazy in everything except when it's lunchtime when he tries to defeat you in those games, and Choji uses food and Shikamaru as a crutch to help him get over his inferior complex. Naruto leaned forward and covered his mouth and whispered, "You see now why they are nothing but tools for us to use to build our empire, and why I chose you to be my right hand and why you will rule beside me. I may sacrifice true friends, but as long as I have you by my side and my empire is created and we save your sister, then all will be fine." Hinata nods barely and Naruto looked at the front of the class at Sasuke and he said, "It won't be long now until things begin, my lady. I have already discovered the council plans Kakashi to train Sasuke after he graduates. When that happens my control over him will be put to a test, so I need to use him a little more before it's too late. His thirst for power will be his downfall." Just then a pair of voices screamed, drawing their attention, and Hinata cringed and said quietly, "I hate those two, master. They are so weak and useless." Naruto said, "True, for now they do, but they could have fewer uses." Hinata glanced at him and asked, "What do you mean?" Naruto said, "Like I can after we graduate, Ino can take over as clan head when her father steps down, and she can provide political power to me if I were to get her to join me." Hinata nods and said, "True, but to do so you would have to get rid of her fangirl persona toward Sasuke. What about Sakura? She's not from a clan, so she has no political power." Naruto nods and said, "True, but I think I could use her other ways." Hinata asked, "You mean as a mistress?" Naruto said, "I don't know about that yet. I told you I will take you first as mine. I was actually thinking that she could be trained to be a weapon for me." Hinata said, "You still would have to deal with her fangirl state." Naruto nods and said, "Perhaps it's time to start moving a few pieces on the board. I think it's time the brooding Avenger has had his first taste of blood." Hinata smiled and whispered, "Just like those root members who tried to attack you on your last visit to Sasuke." Naruto smirked and said, "That was lovely, my lady, the way you slit his throat when I killed his teammate and he tried to attack my blind side." Hinata said, "I aim to please you, my lord." Naruto said, "I have decided it time to take a more active role, Hinata. I will be late this evening, so you may do as you wish. I am going to have Sasuke give me my first tool." Hinata said, "Yes, my lord. Anything I can help with." Naruto said, Now that I think about it, yes, shadow Sakura the next few days, but don't be discovered and learn as much as you can about her." Hinata nods as Iruka walked in with Mizuki and she frowned and asked, "When are you going to get rid of that man? I despise him as much as I do Sasuke." Naruto said, "Soon, my lady, soon," and they began class as usual. That afternoon Sasuke was at his home training when he sensed someone and he turned and saw Razan stepping out of his house and he asked, "Why are you here, master?" as he bowed to one knee. Razan said, "Something has caught my attention that could hinder your growth of power, my apprentice." Sasuke asked, "What is it, master? I will destroy it." Razan rolled his eyes and thought, "You fool, I should kill you but I need you for now," and said, "I have noticed your fangirls are getting bold again and might discover your connection to Danzo and me as well, and if that happens you will be stopped before you can gain more power. Do you deny that by following my commands you have gotten stronger?" Sasuke said, No master. I am stronger than anyone in my class including the teachers. They are holding me back. Razin said, true my apprentice, but the spies your brother has watching you will discover if you become a threat to him and eliminate you before you are ready. Also you are not strongest in your class. Namikaze is stronger, but do not worry about him. I have a plan to help get rid of your problem with your fangirls as well as weaken him so you can become stronger. Sasuke said, what is your plan my master? Razin smirked behind his mask and said, it's time to use some more deception my apprentice. I want you to start dating Ino. Sasuke's eyes got wide and he asked, what, why? He realized his mistake as his throat was being force choked, and after he could breathe Razin said, do not question my orders or I will destroy you. You may think you are powerful but you are nothing compared to me. Sasuke said, forgive me master, in gasping breath. Razin said, I will this time. Now as I was saying, I want you to start dating Ino but tell her that she can't tell anyone. We both know she will, but all I want you to do is spend time with her. Do not kiss her, do not have with her, do not do more than hold hands if even that. If she tries to get you to do more, threaten to break up with her. You are merely going to use her to help you get rid of both her and Sakura. If anyone asks you if it is true, just ignore them. Do not respond. Everyone will think Ino is lying except Ino, who will think she is actually with you. Do this until I tell you otherwise. I will return in a few days when the time is right and have you prepare the next part of my plan. Soon both girls will be out of your life so you can get stronger faster and they won't be around you anymore. Doesn't that sound nice? Sasuke said, yes master, very nice. Razin said, good, now go track down Ino and keep it as discreet as you can or you will fail me and die, as he walked away. Sasuke went and took a quick shower before leaving to find Ino. He went to her family flower shop and saw her sitting behind the counter and he thought, come on Sasuke, you can do this, once this is over she will be out of your head so you can get stronger to kill Itachi and him, and he walked inside. Ino looked up from the magazine she was reading and she went wide-eyed and said, Sasuke-kun, what are you doing here? Sasuke looked around and asked, is there anyone else here? Ino said, no, my father's on a mission, and my mother passed on a few years back, why? Sasuke steeled himself and he said, listen Ino, there's something I want to ask you. Ino's eyes got wide and thought, no, this can't be happening, as hope filled her heart and Ino asked, what is it Sasuke-kun? Sasuke said, look Ino, I've been thinking for a while and I want to know if you want to go out. Ino was shocked and she screamed, yes, take that forehead, and Sasuke's sweat dropped and said, forget it, as he started to leave. Ino said, no wait, as she jumped over the counter and blocked the door. Sasuke looked at her and she said, I'm sorry, I would love to go out with you. Sasuke said, fine, but here are a few ground rules. 1. You can't tell anyone. If they ask I won't deny it or agree with it. 2. No kissing, hugging, or anything like that. We can hold hand if no one is looking and if I feel like it. 3. You don't scream like that again. Deal? Ino said, deal, would you like to go get something to eat? Sasuke said, no, as he walked past her. Ino was put down and Sasuke said, at least not today, as he thought, I have to make it seem real for now. Ino, who was sad a moment ago, was now happy and watched as Sasuke left and Ino said, Mrs. Ino Uchiha. I like the sound of that. I got to tell forehead. And she stopped as she remembered Sasuke rules and she thought, wait. If I wait then I can rub it in her face more later, as she smiled and went behind the counter. Sasuke shuddered as he made his way home and thought, perhaps Itachi killing me would be better. Naruto walked back home that night and saw Hinata meditating and he asked, so what have you found out about her Hinata? Hinata said, Sakura lives in a small house on the east side of town. Her mother works at the library as the head librarian and she spent a little time there reading books before heading home. I asked her mother as I checked out a book about her husband during casual talk and I learned he was a merchant that disappeared around the time Sakura was born and presumed dead. Besides her rivalry with Ino, I didn't see anything that could be described as a friend or someone she hangs out with. In fact, it's quite pathetic really. Naruto asked, okay, I want you to try talking with Sakura and see if you can befriend her on some scale. Hinata blinked and asked, how the hell would me befriending her work to help us? Naruto smiled and thought, "You have learned much, my lady, but you have trouble of seeing what can happen 6 or 7 moves down the road," and said, "Trust me. You will see when it's done. Just sit back and enjoy the show for now and do as I ask, my lady." Hinata sighs and nods and Naruto said, "Good, now let's spar." Hinata took her own stance as Naruto settled into his and they began to spar. The next day when Sakura got to school she saw Ino walk in with Sasuke and she said, "Get away from my Sasuke-kun, Ino pig." Sasuke said, "Come on," as he walked past Sakura with Ino right behind him. Sakura blinked and thought, "What the hell?" as she followed inside and took the seat next to Ino and Sasuke. Hinata raised an eyebrow and said, "What's up with that?" Naruto said, "You will see, my dear, just remember your task." Hinata nods and when lunch came around Hinata walked towards Sakura who was looking for Ino and Sasuke and said, "Hey Sakura, can I talk to you a minute?" Sakura looked at Hinata and asked, "What do you want with me? I mean, don't you usually stay with Naruto?" Hinata said, "Yeah, but you see, I know how book smart you are and I was wondering if you could help me with something." Sakura looked around not seeing Ino or Sasuke and sighed and said, "Sure, what do you need?" Hinata pulled out a scroll and after unsealing a book she said, "Well, I was studying medical biology to help with my plans for the future and I was wondering if you have ever read anything about muscle restriction." Sakura blinked and said, "Well, actually it's funny you should ask. I just recently got a book from the library about it." Hinata said, "Really, what a coincidence. You wouldn't mind helping me with this, would you? I have to impress my part-time teacher this weekend and—" Sakura interrupted her and said, "Part-time teacher? What are you talking about?" Hinata said, "Oh, Naruto-kun went and paid for a mission where on Saturdays I have a couple of ninja come and give me advice so I can show I want to be a true female ninja and not just some fangirl." Sakura blinked and said, "Really, why did he do that?" Hinata said, "Because he wanted to make sure I could fight and be strong so we could go old together. He showed me that no matter who you are or what you believe, there will be a time when your knight in shining armor won't be there to save you or he is being held up fighting the enemy. You either have to fight to protect yourself or hold on long enough for him to get there. So anyways, as I was saying, can you help me with this?" Sakura thought about what Hinata said, thought, could she be right? Could there be a time Sasuke-kun won't be able to save me? No, she's wrong. I know it. And said, "Sure Hinata, I got a little while to help." Hinata said, "Thanks Sakura," as she followed Sakura toward the academy library and thought, this had better work. I can't stand this bitch. The evening when Sasuke was walking into his home after walking Ino home and he heard, "Very good, my apprentice," and Sasuke quickly pulled out the little cube from his weapon pouch. Sasuke asked, "How much more of this do I have to do, master? I hate having Ino all over me." Rasen said, "Listen and listen closely Sasuke, I want you to continue as you have today for the rest of this week, but I want you to go to Danzo and get the Kujibunshin no Jutsu. Practice it every chance you get this week. If Thursday you do not have it, I want you to skip school Thursday because I want you to be able to use it by Friday." Sasuke said, "What then, my master?" Rasen said, "Then I want you to." The rest of the week Sasuke spent time with Ino and learned the Kujibunshin no Jutsu. On Friday at lunch when all the students were leaving the building he was walking out with Ino and said, "Oh Ino, go ahead and order for me. I forgot something in the classroom." Ino said, "Okay Sasuke-kun," as she went to the barbecue restaurant they've been eating at. Sasuke waited until she was out of sight and began searching around the academy. He found Sakura heading toward the library and he said, "Hey Sakura, can I talk to you a minute?" Sakura turned and said, "Sure Sasuke-kun. What do you need?" Sasuke said, "Well, I want to talk to you about something after school today where no one can overhear it, so if you would meet me in the empty classroom on the 3rd floor after everyone leaves." "Okay." Sakura said, "Sure Sasuke-kun." Sasuke said, "Thanks Sakura, and oh, before I forget, don't tell anyone about this because I want to make sure no one interrupts us," as he blew a kiss at her and left. Sakura was blushing and she waited until he was gone and screamed, "Yada," as she ran down the hall. A few hours later as the academy was being let out, Sakura went to the 3rd floor to the empty classroom and sat down and waited. A few minutes later Sasuke walked in and said, "Aw Sakura, glad you could make it. You see, I wanted to ask you something but I am kind of scared." Sakura said, "Whatever it is Sasuke-kun, I won't judge you or anything." Sasuke said, "Well, let me put this over your mouth. I am afraid if you say anything I might lose my confidence to say it, so please let me put this on." Sakura said, "Sure. I understand." And thought, he's so shy. As she turned around to let Sasuke put the gag over her mouth. Once Sasuke put the gag over her mouth, two other Sasuke grabbed her arms, shocking her, and he walked over and locked the door and said, "Now you little bitch. I am tired of your stalking me and ruining my life, so I am going to teach you a lesson." As he pulled out a kunai. Sakura's eyes got wide and she tried to get free but couldn't, and he walked forward and punched her in the gut with his fist, knocking the air out of her, and he then took the kunai and began cutting her cloths off. Sakura was thinking, this can't be happening, it's got to be a nightmare, please someone save me, why Sasuke-kun, why? As she tried to get free but couldn't. After he got her completely stripped, he grabbed her by her hair and dragged her to a chair and tied her arms and legs to the chair with some ninja wire, and then when she was tied up he said, "Now little bitch, if you live and tell anyone about this I will kill you, I will kill your mother, I will kill Ino, but that's if you live. I doubt you will though, so just die," as he slit both her wrist. He then walked over to the door, walked out with the other two hymns, and they locked the door, pulling it closed behind them. After that they went up in smoke. The real Sasuke, who was with Ino, smirked and thought, "Soon I won't have to worry about any of these weaklings," and said, "Hey Ino, there's something I need to tell you. When I went back into the academy today at lunch, Sakura came to me and she asked me out. I told her about us and she went ballistic on me and said she would break us up so she could have me. I am worried about what she might do." Ino said, "Don't worry Sasuke-kun. I won't fall for her tricks." Sasuke said, "That's why I chose you." Outside the academy, Naruto was walking with Hinata and Iruka and he said, "Thanks again Iruka for coming to let us back in. I can't believe I forgot that mission scroll for the Hokage in the class one was requesting. If I can't get that mission done I am going to be set back nearly 6 months." Iruka sighed and said, "You're just lucky I was eating some ramen when you passed by," as he unlocked the door. Naruto walked in with Hinata behind him and Iruka leading the way, and Naruto sniffed the air and said, "What's that smell, Iruka?" Iruka looked at him and asked, "What smell?" Naruto sniffed and said, "I smell blood, and lots of it." Iruka sniffed and said, "I don't smell anything." Naruto looked at Hinata and said, "Would you check the academy with your bloodline, Hinata? I swear I smell blood." Hinata said, "Sure," as she activated her eyes and gasped and said, "Sakura," as she took off running up the stairs and then up the next set with Naruto and Iruka after her. She got to the door to the abandoned classroom and she said, "Sakura in there and she needs help." Iruka looked through the window to the room and saw Sakura, and Naruto said, "Stand back," as he moved Iruka out of the way and he used the force to blow the door off the hinges. They all ran inside and Iruka said, "We got to get her to the hospital fast." Naruto quickly cut the wire holding Sakura to the chair and laid her on the floor out of the blood, and he said, "Hinata, take right, I got left," as they both began going through hand seals and their hands glowed green as they began to heal the wounds. Iruka was shocked and Naruto said, "Iruka-sensei, Hinata carries blood pills in her weapon pouch. Get them and give them to Sakura." Iruka did so as Naruto said, and he saw that Sakura color was starting to return, and Naruto said, "Done here, how about you, Hinata?" Hinata said, "Give me a few more seconds and I will be done," as she finished healing Sakura. Iruka said, "We need to get her to the hospital." Naruto took of his cloak and put it over Sakura and said, "We will take her. You get the Hokage to find out who did this," as he picked her up and him and Hinata took off toward the hospital. On their way to the hospital, Naruto said, "You know what to do." Hinata said, "Right master," as she took off as Naruto continued to the hospital by roof. When Naruto got to the hospital he screamed, "I need a doctor here now." A nurse ran up and asked, "What's wrong?" Naruto said, "My classmate Sakura. Iruka-sensei, Hinata and I found her tied to a chair with her wrist slit when we were at the academy. Hinata and I used a minor healing jutsu to fix the cuts and gave her a blood pill, but she needs immediate help." The nurse looked at Sakura, who was still pale, and she quickly got a medical bed and took her to get checked by a doctor who ran up when he heard the scream for help. Hinata arrived a few moments later and said, "You're too fast, Naruto," as a few people looked at them. Naruto sighed and said, "Damn it. Who did that to her?" The third and Iruka arrived at that moment and the third said, "Where's Sakura?" Naruto said, "She's in with the doctor." The third asked, "Did she say anything?" Naruto said, "No, she has not woke up." The third nodded and said, "Why don't you both go on home? I will put a guard on her for today to ensure whoever did this does not get a chance to harm her again." Hinata nods and said, "We will, Hokage-sama." As she turned and Naruto said, "Can you inform us if anything happens to her, Hokage-sama?" The third said, "Sure." Naruto nods and they left. Hinata frowned as they made it back to the temple and said, "Did he do anything else to her besides cut her arms?" Naruto said, "No, I checked while Iruka was getting the blood pills. The bastard can't even follow orders correctly. I told him to tie her up and cut her wrist where she would slowly bleed out. I had also told him to destroy her shirt and pants to make her think what he could do to her. Not actually strip her completely." Hinata sighed and said, "Well, at least it's not totally lost. We can still proceed as planned." Naruto nods and said, "Yeah, I will go deal with the little twit and proceed as planned." Hinata nods and said, "I will go to the hospital to keep an eye on her." Naruto nods and said, "Run by Ino's and have her go with you." Hinata leaves and goes toward the Yamanaka flower shop. When she got there she saw Sasuke and Ino talking and she walked in and said, "Hey Ino." Sasuke and Ino looked at her and Ino said, "Hello Hinata, come to get some more flowers for your garden." Hinata said, "No, not today. I got some bad news for you." Ino said, "What is it Hinata?" Hinata said, "Today after school Naruto had left something at the academy and me and him tracked down Iruka to let us back in the building and when we did Naruto-kun smelled blood. We found Sakura in that extra classroom on the third floor. She had been tied to a chair and her cloths cut off of her and her wrist had been slit while she was gagged." Ino gasped and asked, "Is she alright?" Hinata said, "Naruto-kun and I used a medical jutsu we know and healed her wrist and gave her a blood pill before taking her to the hospital. I was just on my way back there to check on her and I thought since you were once friends you could come with me to check on her." Sasuke asked, "Did they know who did it to her?" Hinata said, "No." Ino said, "Let me close up shop and I will come with you." "You want to come Sasuke-kun?" Sasuke said, "No, I have some things I need to take care of. See you later Ino," as he quickly left. Hinata saw him leave and thought, "Afraid little man," as her and Ino left to go to the hospital. When Sasuke got to his home Rasen was there and he said, "Well done my apprentice. All has come to pass as I planned however I told you to destroy her shirt and pants, not all her cloths." Sasuke said, "You told me to make it believable so I did." Rasen said, "I will let it slip for now since I have some great news for you. I have discovered who one of the spies that report your status to your brother. I want you to eliminate this spy so we can increase your training after we deal with Ino." Sasuke said, "What if Sakura tells?" Rasen said, "You have an alibi Sasuke. Ino was with you after all and if you followed my orders with her then she will think Sakura did it all to herself or had someone do it making any friendship they still had completely gone. It would then be yours and Ino word versus Sakura with no witnesses against you so even if she tells everyone nobody will believe her. Now onto the spy. I assume you have that root mask and cloak still." Sasuke said, "Yes my master." Rasen said, "Good, I want you to take the mask and cloak with you and sneak into this address and set a bomb in the bathroom in that address so when the spy goes in there you will kill the spy. I want you to also put the cloak and mask in there as well so it will look like the root member was the one responsible for the spy's death. Just make sure it is overkill. If you have to put enough explosives to completely destroy the house do so. Now you have until 6 p.m. today to do so. If you don't do it by then the spy may leave the village. Do not be caught. Goodbye." As he began walking away, Sasuke quickly got what he would need and went to the address that he was told and set up the bomb in the bathroom. After placing the cloak and mask he left. Ino and Hinata were both sitting in the waiting room at the hospital when a doctor came by and asked, "Are you the two who were asking about Sakura Haruno?" Hinata said, "Yes, I was one of the ones who found and brought her here." The doctor nods and said, "You must be Hinata. Haruka told me about you and Naruto using medical jutsu to heal her. It's lucky you did because another 5 minutes and she would have died. She will be out at least until tomorrow though, so you can go on home for the evening. Hinata looked down and said, "Thank you, doctor," as she got up with Ino and both left. As they were walking toward Ino's shop when an explosion was heard and a fireball seen on the east side of town. Both girls looked at each other and took off running toward the explosion. When they got closer, Ino gasped and said, "That's Sakura house next to the one that was blown up." Just then a second explosion went off and Ino screamed, "No!" as Sakura house went up in a fireball. Hinata held onto Ino as several ninja all began arriving using jutsu to put out the fires. The third Hokage arrived with several Anbu and he began to seal the area off, and he saw Ino being held back by Hinata and he jumped up toward them and asked, "What are you two doing here?" Hinata said, "We went by to check on Sakura and the doctor told us she would be okay and we were on our way back to Ino house when we saw the first explosion. When we got here a few seconds later that house there exploded and Ino said it was Sakura house." Ino said, "Sir, Sakura mom should be home right now. She gets home at 5:45 every day from working at the library." The third frowned and he saw some ninja bringing out a body from Sakura house, and he, a man with a leather jacket and a bandana on his head, said, "Sir, the first house that exploded belonged to a man who disappeared a little over a year ago and was a member of Root. We found an Anbu cloak and a Root mask in the bathroom in the tub which somehow survived the blast. That one was a bomb, sir. I think the guy returned and blew himself up as a form of suicide. It appears the second house exploded from a gas leak, sir." The third sighed and said, "Was anyone found Ibiki?" Ibiki said, "I am afraid that a female body was found in the second house but not in the first." The third sighed and said, "Then that is most likely Sakura Haruno mother. Ino here just informed me that she was always at home by 5:45 and it's a little after 6 now." Ino asked, "What is going to happen to Sakura now, sir?" "I mean her mom's dead and her house is destroyed. She's got no other family." The third said, "I don't know." Ino said, "She can stay with me, sir." The third asked, "Are you sure, Ino?" Ino said, "Yeah, we may not always get along but we are friends." The third said, "If it is okay with your father then I agree." Ino said, "Thank you, Hokage-sama." Hinata said, "I want to come with you tomorrow when she finds out about her mom, Ino." Ino said, "Okay, meet me around 10 a.m. and we will head to the hospital to see her." The third said, "I will come with you so I can find out who attacked her and be the one to inform her." Hinata said, "Thank you, Hokage-sama." The third said, "Why don't you both go home? It's going to be a very long day tomorrow." Hinata said, "We will, sir," as she began leading Ino away. When Hinata got home that night she sighed as she found Naruto passed out on the floor in the main hall and thought, "Naruto-kun, you're always trying to make yourself stronger. Do you still punish yourself because your mother hasn't awakened yet? I will stay by your side, my love, and help you complete all your goals." The next day Hinata and Ino arrived at the hospital and found the Hokage there, and the third frowned as he was coming out of the hospital room and he saw Ino and Hinata said, "Hello, Hokage-sama. How's Sakura?" The third said, "She's distracted by the fact her mother's dead and what happened." Ino asked, "Did you find out who attacked her?" The third said, "Yes. Sakura said it was Sasuke Uchiha." Ino said quickly, "That's not possible, sir. Sasuke was with me all afternoon after school until Hinata came by and told us about her attack." The third looked at Hinata who said, "He was there when I went by and got Ino, sir. That's all I know." The third frowned and said, "Are you sure he didn't leave your side the entire afternoon, Ino, before that?" Ino said, "Yes, sir, but..." The third said, "But what?" Ino said, "Sasuke, he told me about something that happened at lunch yesterday. He went back inside to get something he forgot at lunch and he told me to go on ahead to where we've been going for lunch ever since we started to date. He told me Sakura had asked him out and he told her about us and she lost it. She said she would do something to break us up." The third frowned and said, "So you think that what happened to Sakura could be self-induced?" Hinata said, "That's not possible, sir. She was tied up tightly with ninja wire on her arms and legs. She couldn't have done that herself." The third looked in thought and Ino said, "Sakura could be lying about who really did it or something because I know it couldn't have been Sasuke." Hinata said, why would she lie Ino? Ino said, because she jealous. Hinata said, so what, you think she had someone do that to her or something? Ino said, I don't know. Maybe. Hinata slapped her across the face and said, get thee out of here you bitch. I thought you actually cared for Sakura as a friend, but you care so much for Sasuke that you think he can't do no wrong. How do we know you're not lying to protect him? Ino screamed, I am not lying. Why would I lie when I am telling the truth? You know what, you and Sakura. I don't have to stay here and take this crap. I am leaving. As Ino was walking away, the third said, you should restrain your anger, Hinata. Hinata said, why? I know what I saw yesterday and no one would let themselves be done that willingly. Ino cares more about a stuck-up prick like Sasuke than her friend that needs her now more than ever. If you don't mind sir, I would like to still see Sakura. The third nods and said, very well, I need to find a place for her to stay now since I doubt Ino will allow her to stay with her. Hinata said, she can stay with me and Naruto. We talked about it last night and he said if Ino hadn't let her stay with her she could have stayed with us since me and her have become friends a little. The third said, thank you Hinata and thank you for being here for her in her time of need. Hinata said, no problem sir. Now let me go see her, as she walked by him as he left and into the room. She saw Sakura with her knees to her chest crying and she walked over and said, Sakura, in a kind voice. Sakura looked up and said, damn that bitch. I am not lying, it was Sasuke who attacked me. Hinata said, I believe you Sakura. Sakura looked at Hinata shocked and said in a weak voice, you do? Hinata said, yeah, I do. How much of that did you hear? Sakura said, I heard it all. Are you sure Naruto will let me stay? I mean I haven't been friendly to him. Hinata said, but you haven't insulted him either. I believe you and so will Naruto. When will you be able to get out of here? Sakura said, tomorrow. Hinata said, good, what size are your cloths? Sakura asked, why? Hinata said, you don't have any cloths, your home's been destroyed so you need something to walk out of here in unless you want to wear a hospital gown. Sakura looked down and said meekly, no. Hinata said, good, then tell me all your sizes and I will go get you some cloths and bring them tomorrow. Sakura asked, why are you doing this? I mean why are you helping me? Hinata said, my master has shown an interest in you. Sakura blinked and said, your master? Hinata said, yes, my master. He is very powerful and very wise. Sakura asked, are you talking about Naruto? Hinata said, nope. You will see when you come with me tomorrow. Now what are your sizes? Sakura told her the size of her cloths and Hinata said, very well. I will be here before 10 a.m. tomorrow to pick you up. Don't tell anyone what I have said. I promise if you keep an open mind my master can give you the world, as she got up and left. Sakura thought, who is her master and why does he have an interest in me? The next day after Sakura got out of the hospital she had been given a simple dress and a pair of panties and a bra to wear and she followed sadly after Hinata. When they got to the temple Hinata stepped outside of the temple and said, Sakura, I want you to look at these two statues. The woman is named Kushina Uzumaki. She was Naruto's mother. She was also a leader of a grand army that saved the lives of more people than can be counted. The other statue is Darth Revan, Dark Lord of the Sith. She was the ruler of an army that decimated all who stood in her way. My master asked me to have anyone who stays here to remember that these women were his master before he began to rise to power. Now please follow me and meet my master. Hinata then leads Sakura inside where a throne was sitting in the middle of the grand hall and Hinata bowed down to one knee and said, I have brought her here as you requested my master. Sakura was looking around and Hinata said, get down now Sakura and show some respect. Sakura quickly bowed on one knee scared of the ki Hinata was blasting her with and she looked down on the floor scared to look at the person who was sitting in a cloak with a mask on his face on the throne. The person said, you are Sakura Haruno correct? Sakura said, yes. The person said, arise Lady Hinata and take your place. And Hinata stood up and walked to the foot of the stairs and faced Sakura and the person said, now as for you Sakura, I am Darth Razan, first master of the force. Sakura asked, what is it you want from me? Razan said, what do you have to live for Sakura? Sakura blinked and looked up and asked, what? Razan said, your mother's dead, your home has been destroyed. You have no job, no food, no money. From what I saw, you have no friends. You were nearly killed by the boy you claimed you love after he stripped you of all your cloths. Nobody believes you because it's your word against theirs. You are weak, lonely, pathetic, so tell me. What do you have to live for? Sakura opened her mouth and closed it several times, wanting to deny what he was saying, and thought, he's right, what do I have to live for? The only reason I even have cloths is because Hinata gave them to me. The Hokage doesn't believe me, my only friend I had thinks I am a liar. I have nothing, so why should I live? Hinata and Razan saw the will to live leaving Sakura's eyes the more she thought of it, and Razan said, if you have no reason to live, then I give you a choice, Sakura. Sakura looked at him and he threw a kunai that hit the ground in front of her, and he said, I give you the choice to either kill yourself right now or. Sakura asked in a timid voice, or. Razan said, you can live to serve me and my empire faithfully for the rest of your life, and in exchange I will give you a home to live in, food to eat, cloths to wear, I will give you a purpose to live, a job to do, and someday if you prove yourself a faithful, obedient servant, I will give you a family by allowing you to sire some of my heirs. All you have to do is swear your heart to love me and my empire, your body to do with as I please, your mind to follow my orders, and your soul so no matter who comes into your life you will know your place is with me to serve me as your master. Do as I ask and never betray me, and I will give you all I have offered. Betray me and I will take everything from you, including your life. This is the choice I offer you. To live a life that has a purpose to exist, or the choice to end your own life. Now choose. Hinata saw and heard all this and thought, I see your plan now, master. You took everything from her and left her with nothing and then gave her a purpose. It's the same thing you did for me, but I was different. You gave me your heart, which I will keep with me, while pathetic women like Sakura here will be nothing but a servant. You have never called me a servant, but you have shown Sakura that's all she will ever be to you. I was your apprentice until I became your right hand. Sakura looked at the kunai and thought, do I become his servant and gain all he has offered, or do I end it now? My mother never gave up after father died, and she lived on for me. I will live on for her, and said, I accept, my master, as she lowered her head. Razan said, good, good Sakura. Now it is time to begin your training. That's it for part 4 of What If Naruto Was Trained by a Sith Kushina. If you're enjoying this darker Naruto storyline, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more epic What If fanfics. Comment below, will Naruto stay loyal to Kushina's teachings, or forge his own path? See you in part 5.